press record now. And we're using Zoom format, and we want to encourage audience participation. Just remember to use Hoova for chat and Q&A, and we will also let you raise your hand and ask questions that way once Denise is ready for that. And don't forget to engage in the other community activities in Hoova as we end the day and end the summit. And if you need closed captioning, that's the little button at the bottom, the CC button that you can click. You want to turn that on. Okay, I think that's all the business. So Denise, welcome. Thanks for being here. I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you so much, Neil. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this afternoon. Hopefully you had a great lunch and are just taking in all the knowledge that the other speakers are sharing. So thank you again for this platform. Welcome to my lightning talk, Takes a Village, which is just a conversation to help encourage mentoring relationships. So we're going to start with the chat feature on the Hoova app. Before you send it off, because I know we're quick with our thumbs, what I want to do is have this like cascading waterfall. So the chat's just going to light up with everyone's answer. So I'm going to give you the question, and then you can type in your answer. And when I count to 3, go ahead and press enter. And then if you're keeping an eye on the chat, we get to see everyone's responses, much like the waterfall that's in this photo here. So I would like you all to share your name and where you're joining us from, which campus, and your role there. So if you're a student, if you are faculty, staff, just so we can say hi to one another, maybe we can network and see other people and write down their name, or maybe we can visit their profile and look them up on LinkedIn. But this is just for us to, it's like our little icebreaker. So again, don't hit enter until I count to 3. So you're sharing your name, where you're joining us from, and your role there. Okay. 1, 2, 3. So we'll go ahead and give everyone a little bit to do that. And we should start seeing them pop up. Thank you all for joining. We have a good representation from different campuses. Thank you all. Awesome. And then you all can, refer back and look at everyone else. That was just for us to kind of get the balls rolling before we jump into this session. So we're just going to start. If you've attended other sessions today, you've probably heard this over and over, and that's because it's important. What is important is the connections. Connections matter. You'll see from the title of this lightning talk where it takes a village, and that is because when we think of it, it's every connection a student has on campus. They are not doing this alone. Connections to campus agents, I'm referring to faculty and staff, are the strongest predictors of success among college students in general. We know that these campus agents establish the learning environments, the nature, the strength of the stimulation their interactions provide for learning and change of all kinds, okay? Mentoring plays a key role in this transference of knowledge and skills in a given profession. And the academic influence of mentoring pertains to the cultivation of intellectual skills and achievement. That is a lot, and it's a big weight to carry, faculty, staff, but it's so important, especially for the success of our students and those that identify as being part of the marginalized community. When we think of racial and ethnic minority students, mentorship actually helps develop that talent that these students already come to us with, and it links opportunities for them. And when we think about focusing on specific minoritized groups, and retention rates, it's that opportunity for future diverse faculty and staff. If we make an impact now, the hope is they'll want to come back and make an impact for others. Mentorship provides support, it challenges, and it establishes a vision. When I talk about support, I'm referring to active listening and understanding, providing structure that most of our first generation students may not have access to, and expressing positive expectations regarding the students' capabilities. Support is also offered by serving as an advocate. We know that mentoring can take many forms. It can be formal and informal, but it's rooted in engaging in discussion. It's setting standards and allowing the student to mature and find their own unique voice. It's not us wanting to give them the voice we want them to have. Maybe it mimics our own, but we want them to find their own voice, and we cultivate that relationship for them. So all hands on deck there. Again, we're going to go back to the chat. This one's not going to be a cascading waterfall. Go ahead and answer as you please. But what are some feelings you experienced yourself as a first gen student, or maybe you're still experiencing if you're a first gen student? When we think about faculty and staff, maybe we're still experiencing those feelings being new to a campus. For example, me, I'm new to my campus. But if we can just look at some of those feelings, and I'm going to hop in the chat as well, just so I can keep an eye. So feelings of, when you think about, we don't have to disclose how long ago we were first gen students if we identify as one, but anything that you remember, and maybe feelings that students are expressing to you now that resonates with you because you've been in their shoes before. Some of them, for example, can be isolation. This feeling of uncertainty, the unknown. It's something they've never experienced before because they are first gen and they are carrying a lot of weight on their shoulders, and it can be a lot of pressure, especially for those that might be from, again, those minoritized backgrounds, and they don't want to let their family down. The sessions earlier provided wonderful, well, they're not wonderful, but great statistics about the retention of these students. So when we think about those feelings, we also need to think about strategies to help combat those feelings. Okay, one of them being mentoring, which can be a very effective strategy to help those feelings of uncertainty, of imposter syndrome. I will raise my hand to that. And here, Fries, Britton Snyder in 2015 discussed how effective mentoring can be. In 2011, ASHE, the Association for Study of Higher Education, conducted a report, and it found that faculty and other institutional agents, so we're talking about advisors, counselors, student affairs staff who are critical, shared a common ground with the students, humanized the educational experience. They provided holistic support, and they had a positive influence on the students' success. These positive relationships between faculty and students are based on trust, integrity, opportunity, and understanding. When all of those are interrelated and the foundation of those relationships, it strongly impacted student persistence. Trust, it's a favorite quote of mine from Brene Brown. Trust is not built in big, sweeping moments. It's built in tiny moments every single day. I have had wonderful students come and tell me, you actually got to know me. They want to see faculty as more than people that grade their papers. They want to form those connections with faculty and and staff. Staff are the ones who see our students probably more than we do if they're student affairs, especially engaged on campus. And it's cultivating those relationships and taking an approach, a positive approach to impact the rest of their lives, essentially. Sink or swim, let's just throw it out there, is not a mentoring technique. I've come across my own professors when I was in grad school where that was their motto. It was sink or swim, and not everyone's going to make it. And for me, that just, it gave me motivation to prove them wrong, but it would have been different had I felt supported. So that's one reason, or how I frame my mentoring with others. We need mentors who didn't have perfect grades, right? When we're thinking about humanizing this educational experience, the students might, hold us up on a pedestal and think, oh my gosh, there's no way I can be like that. And how did they get here? So we need to share our experiences with them and let them know we went to community college. I, took the GRE 2 times. We need mentors that have struggled to belong. Because when we think of our student population now, a lot of them are struggling to belong, especially coming off COVID, where they need to know, again, we're human, we're not superheroes. So the whole goal is to create a ripple effect. I love this quote. By their very existence, mentors provide proof that the journey can be made. So, like I said, for me, in grad school, I didn't want to be told, you're not going to make it. I wanted to be told, hey, I was in your seat. Let me show you how I did it, right? Mentoring is important to improve the students' academic and social experiences. And these critical relationships shape mentoring for future generations. I say this all the time, mentors are the cheat code, okay? We provide a roadmap that can sustain students, even faculty, especially junior level faculty in the field, and offer lasting benefits. It's not a one and done approach. I mean, granted, you'll have students who will seek you out just for the time that they're with us, and that's fine. But it's those relationships, the check-ins after they graduate, and the updates like, hey, I applied to this medical school and I got in. I got accepted to this position at this wonderful hospital. I still do that with my mentors, years later, I keep them posted on what I'm doing and thank them because they helped foster that growth. Maya Angelou said, when you learn, teach, and when you get, give. So as first gens in this brave and safe space, we should give back. We need to give that hand up to our students and see them succeed. So I did this a little backwards, and it was very intentional because here I am throwing, the research at you. But when I talk about humanizing our experience, this is what I'm referring to. So that right there is a young Denise. I don't remember how old I was. I was probably 5 or 6, but I love this photo because I was so hopeful for my future. And my very first mentors in my life were my grandparents who raised me, who didn't have a formal education, who didn't graduate from high school, but they instilled in me that I could do anything I wanted to do, and they were going to support me. They didn't know anything about the FAFSA application. They didn't know anything about scholarships, but what they did know was that I could grow up to be whoever I wanted to be. Every summer vacation, we would visit different colleges. And I grew up in Texas, and Texas is huge. There's a lot of colleges in Texas. So we would go on these family vacations and we would have college tours. And it's something I do now with my daughters. Every vacation we go on, I'm very intentional about showing them the schools that they can go to, the Ivy League schools, the HBCUs. So it's instilling in students that they don't have to stop dreaming. The dream doesn't end just because they're in college now. If anything, they should have a list of dreams they want to accomplish, and we should help them get there. I was a non-traditional student. So my village are these two little girls here. I'm holding a sign that says I did it, and my oldest is saying for me, and my youngest it says and me too. I had their support the entire time that I was in school, and it's something that we all sacrificed for. But I showed them that age didn't matter. My ethnicity didn't matter. They could do it too. So now they believe that. So much so that ripple effect that I was talking about inspired my husband to go back to college. He finished his 8 years in the Army, and he completed his bachelor's degree, and then he completed his master's degree. And, he's holding on his cap there is Malcolm X, by any means necessary, because that was pretty much our motto. We got things done, and we had our village. It has always been the four of us. Then we became mentors to our undergrad university. And there's my husband and myself and a person in my village that are invited to speak every year at our undergraduate university because of the mentoring we do and the leadership skills that we help build in these Hispanic students. I went to a Hispanic serving institution, which is completely different from Penn State. That's a PWI. But again, that little girl could have never dreamed about that. My village continues to cheer me on. When I was defending my dissertation, I would get text messages from my mentors telling me, you're going to be great, wishing you the best of luck. And it's something that I needed, and sometimes you don't even realize you need it, but it was always perfect timing. Messages like, I'm rooting for you, really make the difference. And that's what we need to do for students. Let them know, I'm rooting for you. You can do this too. You have someone in your corner. At our campus, we have a whole staff that's rooting for them. We have amazing people that really do want to see them succeed. And I think the more we tell students that, and the more that we show them, I did it too. I understand what it's like working full-time and go to school full-time and being on financial aid and playing sports and wanting to have a life and raising kids and having a husband. Share those experiences because it lets them know they can get it done and they can turn to you for advice. There's another message. That one was right after I finished my defense. And again, it's just reaffirming when that imposter syndrome hits. I get messages where I'm like, okay, I have to remember where I came from. I have to remember and appreciate the journey that got me to where I am today. This message is probably the most recent. It's about a year old, and it was the day that I interviewed at my campus. This was from my mentor who's still in my life. We meet once a month for coffee, and she shared this with me. She said, enjoy yourself, share your wisdom, kind of take in this moment. And that village I talked about saw me through all the way up until I got my doctoral degree. You'll see them there in the background. And it's something that I couldn't have done without a village. Wherever your village is, even if you're a student, if you're faculty or staff, we all need mentors. Even now, as a faculty member, I have mentors here because I'm new to this. And it's, again, mentors being the cheat code and willing to share their knowledge with you rather than make your life difficult. The most important thing, right? We're all part of Penn State. And it's important to remember, we can't navigate the journey alone. Students don't navigate the journey alone. Success is not a solo sport. We can be unstoppable together. There's no shortage of success. So we should encourage the students to build capital with people in the rooms just now, networking, LinkedIn, anything, because everyone here, especially, has various degrees of influence. if I can't help a student, I know someone who will. It's remembering that great players have great coaches, right? We need those coaches and allies in our corner. We can never stop believing that we are capable of empowering others and being empowered as well. Having students believe that they're self-determined, whole human beings who will bring their own needs and strengths to the table. We're just here to kind of guide them. So we'll go ahead and open it up for questions now.
Thanks, Denise. You want to stop sharing?
Sure, yes.
There's a good question in the Q&A about when you're building a program to support first-gen students, campus collaboration is really important. So who do you see as important offices that we should be collaborating with when we're building such a program?
So I think the offices that have the most interaction with the students would be, whether it's their academic advisors, I know student affairs, because some students see student affairs as the fun things to do, right? They put on these great events for students. They get to know students sometimes on a more personal level than faculty do. So it's, again, very collaborative effort, and knowing it's not just one team or one office. I think my campus does a great job at collaborating on various aspects where staff and faculty are so involved. They know students by name, and when students share, when they're allow themselves to be vulnerable, we know a little bit about their background too. So I think it's just important to have those lines of communication, cross-campus collaborations, and letting them know the resources that are out there.
Thank you. Let's just move to like raising your hand. Feel free to unmute and ask a question. And maybe Denise, have you got the gallery view up so you can see who's raising their hand?
I do. There's
Okay.
So I don't see any hands, Neil. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
Alexa Hodge just raised her hand.
Okay. Go ahead, Alexa.
Hi, Denise. Hi, everyone. I really mostly want to just thank you for sharing your story. It's something that I've learned is so powerful because I've had students who look at me and they think like, how did you get there, right? How did you come to work in a college where I have no one in my life that looks like you, that's even gone to college. And so about a couple of years ago, I started actually sharing my story with students. And I run a program. I'm the coordinator of a retention program for my campus. I'm at the Berks campus. And I actually integrate that as part of our summer bridge program, where our students have an opportunity to share their story. And I let them get as vulnerable as they want. They can share, how they decided to come to Penn State Berks, or they can share a chronological retelling of their entire life. They have a time frame that they have to do that in. And I'm always surprised by how deep our students get, because we do it at the end of this week where we've been together, and at the start of the week, myself and our peer mentors have shared their story, and students have shared some really, really critical things. So I just wanted to express my thanks and appreciation for you sharing your story, because I think there's so much power in that for our students. And then just one other quick thing. So I supervise the peer mentors who support my first year students. And today we literally just had a conversation about humanizing themselves, and that they didn't feel that one person in particular didn't feel like her mentees talked to her about anything more than fun stuff. And she wanted to get deeper. And I said, well, sometimes that's what they want, and they need the fun stuff on the surface. And when they have an issue, they'll come to you. But also sometimes they might be afraid that you may not understand or you may not relate because you look like you've got it all together. So I said, sometimes if you just share, a challenge that you have, and you don't have to share and say, and how about you, right? You just share, and then that kind of opens that door for them to feel more comfortable sharing a similar challenge with you in the future. So sorry, I get long-winded, but I want to thank you most of all.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, Alexa. And I couldn't agree more because lived experiences matter. And it's us reminding the mentees of who they are based on not assessments, right? It's like sometimes they tell you, take a look at your resume to see where you've been. And I think it's crucial to share their narrative, but also create how they want the narrative to go. And just like you shared, they might be fine with keeping things surface level. And maybe that's time to, okay, I can't help you. Someone else will, because it's about rapport building too, and I do it in the classroom and I do it outside the classroom. And just like you, I came to campus and didn't see anyone that looked like me, faculty and staff, but students see me in them and they reach out. And I love that so much.
Denise, one of your early slides quoted Terenzini, on making significant connections with faculty and staff as one of the strongest predictors of success. I mean, I don't doubt that, but that does put I think that puts a big responsibility on us. And I just wonder if you have advice for people who, I think some people are kind of magnets for students. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they're very popular. A lot of students really want to have them as a mentor. I'm sorry. As soon as we finish, we'll go back to Alexa. But anyway, so I wondered what advice you had for people who find that they are doing a lot of mentoring, and it's it's a bit of a challenge. And I wonder if you feel that way sometimes.
Right. And it's something where it can be very emotionally taxing. And especially when we think of all of our job duties and then wanting to or having to mentor on the side. Some people are not cut out for it. Let's just be honest. Like I shared my graduate faculty where I'm like, no, I would never come to you as a mentor. But it's something where we have to also set our own boundaries. Some students may not know how to seek out mentorship, and we don't go tapping them on the shoulder like, hey, do you need a mentor? Do you need a mentor? It's something that has to be very genuine, but also something that we have to have, our own discernment about it and realize like, okay, can I do this? Am I carrying too much? Because if we have, 15 mentees on top of everything else we're doing, how good of a mentor are we really? And it is a lot of pressure, I think. But when these students come to us, I feel like they sign up for more. They might not know it until they get really emerged on campus, but they're signing up for more than just academics. And that's through us. How are we going to make them wanting to enjoy being on campus and signing up for these events that Student Affairs puts on and seeking out these relationships? And again, just tapping other people on the shoulder. We think of wrestling, like maybe I can't do it, but my colleague can, and we can do like a tag team. But we are the strongest predictors of success. And that's when we think about our retention rates and what can we offer them more than just lecturing all day long. And it's humanizing the experience and whatever that might be, it's understanding what they want to see more of, because the students have a voice and they need to learn how to advocate that. So we need to listen and not just force them to seek out the help.
Other questions? While they're thinking about it, do you find that is it easier to mentor students after they're your students? In other words, not when you're teaching them, but once you finish teaching them, or do you have any like private rules about that?
So the only rules I have with my current students, and I'm like, don't look for me on social media. I don't. I'm not going to friend you on social media, things like that. But it's when they are my student and they are looking for research opportunities, or they have questions about, jobs, and can you take a look at my resume? I don't mind that at all. And it's when they still come back after I'm not, teaching their course, is when more of a genuine or insider relationship can happen, where I think they aren't sort of fearful, like this is a person that grades, and and it's knowing like what's appropriate and what's not. And when they share, it's always reminding them like, okay, I'm a mandated reporter, and be careful. There's a level of respect that comes with it. But I'm open to it. I don't have rules like once you have to be a student, and because I have people coming to me that I've never had in class before.
All right, Beth Ann.
Hi, Denise. I really enjoyed your talk, and it's great to see you here. So mentoring takes so much energy along with our teaching. So I was wondering if you have suggestions, for keeping the energy up, keeping your inspiration going, that you can share with us.
Yeah. So good to see you here, Beth. It's something where at least I can only speak for how I feel when a student comes to me and asks, hey, will you mentor? Will you help guide me? It's very humbling and invigorating, because they want to have this framework laid out for them. And it's nice for me to have those conversations with them. So I think I get re-energized just with the conversations alone, and sometimes get wrapped up in a lot of what they share and reflect on, oh my gosh, I remember being your age and going through that. But it's like I said earlier, where we wear so many hats, it can be draining. So knowing how to set those boundaries, where a lot of the times I tell my students they're so quick to ask for letters of recommendation, but it's also, okay, what is it that you want to achieve? Here's a template I need you to fill out. And I tell them, I'm not afraid to tell them, I'm not going to write 30 letters of recommendation, because then how good does that look on my name? Like, oh, here's another letter of recommendation from Denise. And so it's giving them some responsibility as well. And it's a give and take. It's not, for the mentor-mentee relationship, it's not us just throwing on what we want them to achieve. It's like I said, assessing them on a personal human level, and knowing what we can and can't do. And it's maybe it's not mentoring every single week. It's setting up meetings. Maybe it's once a month. Maybe it's, we can only communicate via email, and once you're out, I'll give you my phone number. And it takes a lot, but it's also knowing that we're not in this alone, right? We have a team, we have resources, and it might be guiding them to like the Academic Success Center, or their advisor, or the resources that are at UP or World Campus, even though they're here on our campus. So it's just knowing what we can and can't handle, not being afraid to say, I'm still a human, I have a life, but that comes with having those genuine conversations with them.
Other questions? I'll ask another question. That's okay. So Denise, a lot of times students, I get the sense that students want to be mentored because they want a letter of recommendation. And sometimes, we feel like we could write a good letter, and other times, sometimes we're connected to students because, they've messed up in whatever way, in our class, or they're employees and they've made mistakes, and we've helped them straighten these things out. So sometimes I struggle with, how do we navigate that, where they've gotten to know us well, but maybe they're not the best students, and in multiple ways. I mean, obviously we want to support their success. So do you find yourself ever in that dilemma where you don't feel like you can write a really strong letter of recommendation, but you do want to be very supportive of their success?
So I haven't found myself in that situation yet. Not to say it won't happen, but it's also if I'm not afraid to say no to a student. Let's say that, where it's me saying, I don't think I'm the best person for this, but maybe you should look at someone else, and then still being that advocate and ally for them. That doesn't change the relationship at all, but it's letting them know that, it's just like any other relationship where it's give and take, but it can't be me giving 100% of the time. You have to meet me halfway. So you asking me to do something, again, goes back to the respect. And we think of, okay, what am I getting? It should be a comfortable relationship. And by that, we shouldn't, if we're afraid to like hit them with the truth, then we should not be their mentor.
Other questions for Denise? We have plenty of time. We have a few minutes. No, we have 10 minutes. I appreciate that answer because, what I find is that a lot of times people who ask for that letter of recommendation, a couple of years down the road, I'm ready to give it. It's just that when they first asked me, I don't feel like I'm the best person, or I don't feel like I have enough evidence, to really write them as well.
Right. And that can be something, where you help cultivate, like, what are the weaknesses and how can we turn them into strengths? I can help you right now. What is your plan? So in 3 months, we can reevaluate you and I can ready to write your next one. I can take a look at your resume and proofread it. I can help you clean up your LinkedIn page. I can help you in other ways, but right now I can't give you that letter of recommendation. Hi, Millie. I think you have your hand up.
Hi, Denise. So good to see you.
I miss you too.
I just wanted to say I really appreciated the title of your session because it's, and I put this in the chat and Huva, that a lot of times students, especially first-gen students, don't know what questions to ask, but they definitely want to make connections. And they, especially students of color, have often heard that refrain, it takes a village to raise a child. So, but I also wanted to say, just piggybacking on what you just finished saying, not only, helping them out now, but also what is the plan to make further connections with other individuals on campus so that they could also be a go-to person for a recommendation letter. And I actually for me, it's always been so scary to ask for a recommendation letter, even as an adult. So when I have students who come in and say, oh, I'm looking into this internship, if there's somebody that I have met more than once, I always say, well, if you need a recommendation, let me know. And just like you said, but, what is the plan for the future? Send me your resume, tell me what you're doing, write me a little bit of a bio. So that way I, can really, lift you up.
Great.
But also then what's your plan? But I just really enjoyed your talk today.
Thank you, Millie. And I agree. It's, I just had a student ask me last week for a letter and I said, okay, what is the website? What are the requirements? Send me your resume. What are your future goals? How will this letter help you? This one was for a scholarship. So besides financial help, how are you going to give back? And that's one thing I asked her is, how are you going to give back? Right? Because I'm all about that. We pay it forward. So it's opening that door for them, right? Because we want everyone to have a seat at the table, especially first gen students, especially students of color. How are you going to pay it forward? And it makes them think. And again, goes back to that. This is a mutual relationship. It's not just Denise gives you everything and you take it and here I am like empty handed. I want to see you succeed, but I want to see you grow. I want to see that growth too. I don't see any more hands up. Neil, what do you think?
Yeah, we can certainly end it here a little. Thanks everybody for participating. I just want to remind you that you can use the evaluate button beside this Denise's session to provide some feedback. I'd encourage you to do that. And what else is on the agenda? I can't even remember what's next. We're nearing the end, I think. I think there's one more session, right?
Yes, there is.
But anyway, Denise, thank you so much. It's been really great talking with you. It was fascinating to hear how you work with students, and it's been wonderful to hear your own story. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that with us, and I just wish you all the best in your continued career here.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your time.
All right, I'm going to stop recording.